it's Jen from Kitchen Vixen. Welcome back to my kitchen. Today we are going to be making Tragacanth ornaments. Now that sounds like a funny word. If you've never heard of them, Tragacanth is a special natural ingredient that comes from the sap of legumes that are grown in the Middle East. And it's just a special class of legumes that has this strengthening property to it. So it's going to add some strength to our ornaments, and we will be able to make something that will last years and years, and will have a beautiful imprint on them. And we are going to be using Springerle molds. So get out those molds that you used to make cookies previously, because you'll get more use out of them today. We're going to be making the ornaments with your molds. I'll show you how to make the dough. And then this is what they look like. It's almost like a plaster. They're very, very intricate, just like the cookies were. You can see it there. And you can, they actually just air dry. You don't even need to bake them. So it's similar to salt dough ornament, but you're going to get some very, very detailed designs that will stay like that. So to preserve, you can also paint these, but I really love the powdery look, the plastery, powdery look of them on the Christmas tree. So please join me today as we make some Tragacanth ornaments. So let's talk about ingredients. Today I'm going to be demonstrating using the Kitchen Vixen Tragacanth Ornament Kit, and that's this little guy right here. This can be found on our Etsy shop, and it is convenient because I have sourced and pre-measured the difficult to find ingredients, the special ingredients, which are the Tragacanth powder and the rose water. I've also included hardware, so little hooks to hang your ornaments as well. The recipe's included and a few other things. So let me show you what's in here. And if you want to make them at home without the kit, I will be letting you know how much of each ingredient you can use. So first is the Tragacanth powder itself. That's in this little vial right here, super cute. You have exactly a teaspoon, so you will need 1 teaspoon of Tragacanth powder. And once you're finished with this, you can keep it and store, you know, maybe some luster dust or some sprinkles for your cookies, something like that. So I'm big on reusing. So I always like to include things that you can reuse in your packages like this. Next we have the rose water, and this is rose water from France. Malandel is the brand, and I have pre-measured and put it in these little bottles here. These are little squeeze bottles. It has exactly 8 teaspoons, so that's how much you'll need for this recipe. 8 teaspoons of rose water, and it has a little spout here so that you can put it in drop by drop, and then this comes off so that when you're done, you use all of this for the recipe. So once you're done using it, you can rinse it out and then use it for something else. And I like to use this bottle for my Everclear when I'm decorating and making luster dust paints for decorating cookies and painting cookies. I put the Everclear in here so I can use it drop by drop rather than trying to pour it out of a bottle and spilling too much. So you can get an exact amount with this. So the bottle is very convenient. So that's included in your kit as well. We also have a plunger, which is it's a plunger cutter, something that Kitchen Vixen has created, which is a tool to poke a hole into the top of your cookie so that you have somewhere to hang it. And then this convenient little piece afterwards pokes through to push the extra dough out of the inside of this circle. So that's convenient. You can use it for ornaments, for cookies, you know, cinnamon applesauce ornaments, that kind of thing. Next, we've included 24 of these little eye hooks, and these are made from 18 gauge copper wire, and I made them myself by hand. And there are 24 of these hooks included for y'all, so that once you're done pressing your cookie, you push this into the top and let it dry, and then this will be where you can hang your ornament from. So you have a choice. You can use the hooks or you can use the hole puncher. If you don't want to disturb the image by punching a hole into your ornament, you can use these instead, and then you'll still have your full image, so it won't disturb the image itself. Of course, we've included the recipe, and I'll be sending these recipe cards out as well throughout the month of November and December. with any of your Kitchen Vixen orders as well, of your mold orders. But that comes with the kit. It's also available online, so just ask me, or I'll see if I can try to post it down below in case you want to source the ingredients by yourself. And then lastly, we've included this sample ornament. So this is an example just to show you what the ornaments look like, and you'll get one so that you can see possibly how thick to roll the dough, you know, how the details are going to come out, and then where I positioned the hook and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a sample, so you can keep that for yourself. These are also fun to use as gift tags. You can write on the back of them and use that instead of a gift tag for your Christmas gifts, holiday gifts. And then, oh, I forgot to mention one more thing. I like to reuse things. So I decided to use one of these clear boxes to pack in for the kit, because you can use this afterwards to put your ornaments in that you've made to give them as gifts, or you can use the package to package your spring relay cookies or something like that. So every single thing in this kit can be reused, so please don't throw away these items. You know, they have another purpose. Now let's get started with the ingredients. There is one step that you have to do about 6 to 8 hours before the rest, and that is to mix the two special ingredients together. You want to mix 1 teaspoon of Tragacanth powder with 8 teaspoons of rose water. And so let's do that now. I'm using a clear dish so that I can show you what happens afterwards, but I'm just going to go ahead and dump all of the Tragacanth powder out. And remember, keep this adorable little vial, because you can store sprinkles or other fun things in there as well. Okay, so we have the Tragacanth powder in here, and then here's 8 teaspoons of the rose water, and this is conveniently in a squeeze bottle. Of course, this is in a dropper bottle, so I'm going to take this off just to make life a little bit faster. So you can see that this just pops right off, and then you can pour it directly. Okay, so let's pour that in. Okay, and you're just mixing those two ingredients together. Now don't forget this little piece, it can pop back in so that you can reuse this bottle for other purposes. Like I said earlier, I like to use them for my Everclear, so I can use it to mix the paints. So now we have the powder and the rose water together in a dish, and I'm just going to use a small spoon. You can use a little spatula to stir it around. So get it a little mixed up in here. You can use a mini whisk if you have one. And you'll notice that it starts getting sort of a jelly-like appearance, okay? And that's what we want, actually. So I like to kind of press the powder against the side to break it up a little bit. I can smell the rose water now. It's so pretty. So you're gonna get sort of a gelatin-like appearance. And that's good, that's what we want. And we're going to mix it all just by stirring, or you could whisk it if you wanted to, but I don't want to put too much air in here. But yeah, you could use a small whisk, and you just want to stir it until that's well incorporated. So it's going to start to look something like this. It's kind of a jelly, and then what we want to do is we want to stir it until all that Tragacanth powder has dissolved. And then once it looks mostly dissolved, you can leave it sit for 6 to 8 hours. And that is basically how long it will take to like fully incorporate, so you have one homogeneous gel-like substance. Okay, so I've been stirring the mixture for a couple of minutes now, and it is mostly incorporated. You will notice that there's some little white blobs here and there, but what we're looking for here before we leave it is that you're looking for kind of more of a translucent jelly. Now you will see some white specks just like this, and that's fine. That will kind of dissolve over time, but you just needed to get it started. So that's what you want. You want like a thick jelly kind of substance, and it won't be clear anymore. It'll be translucent. not transparent. Okay, so I was just tapping to get all of it off of my spoon, and then what you want to do is wrap this up. Just put some plastic wrap over top of it so the air doesn't really get in, and just let it sit on the counter for 6 to 8 hours. Once you check on it, you can give it a little stir, and then it should be ready to go. So I've gathered my ingredients here. We have 5 cups of powdered sugar, and it does not need to be sifted. We have 1 cup of cornstarch, 2 eggs, 2 large eggs, excuse me, and your Tragacanth rosewater jelly mixture. That's been sitting out by the magic of TV, I guess, been sitting out for 6 to 8 hours. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to use just the whites of the eggs, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and crack those. And I save my yolks for other forms of baking, or sometimes I feed them to my dogs. So I'll separate the whites into one jar. Okay, and do the same for the other egg. So you're trying to get as much of the whites as you can. This will help bind all of your ingredients together, and will also act as a hardening agent. Whoops, excuse me. Okay, so there we have basically the 4 ingredients that it takes to make these ornaments. Now let's get started mixing. You'll need your trusty KitchenAid stand mixer, and you will need the whisk and paddle attachments. So we're going to start with the whisk. And then you can put the egg whites right in there. Just go ahead and dump them right in. We're going to give them a little bit of a whip for just a couple minutes till, as I mentioned before in my other video, we call it waking up the eggs. Just a minute or two to blend them on medium, just to get them a little bit kind of loosened up. And then once they've mixed, we're going to incorporate your jelly. And now, if you'll peek at it, and it smells so good, you'll notice it's become a very thick jelly. So you'll just want to give it a quick stir, and then grab a spatula and dump it right into your eggs as they're mixing. Okay? Let me do that right now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, here's the jelly substance right now. I'm going to give it a quick stir. Very, very thick right now. You can see. And I'm just going to dump it right into the eggs. Keep it going. So you're making a meringue with a little special extra something. You get all of that Tragacanth jelly in there that you can. That will help keep the ornaments strong. And I'm going to go ahead and put it on high. Oh, it smells so good. That's really all you need. At this point, I'll show you, you have just a nice foamy meringue. It doesn't have to have stiff peaks. It can be just soft peaks at this point. And you can see it on the edge of the whisk as well. So at this point, we are going to remove the whisk. I like to give it a little tap to get the extra meringue off the end. There we go. We're going to put the paddle on at this point. We're going to start using some thicker ingredients, so it'll need the paddle to get through them. Okay, And I like to start, we're gonna start with our powdered sugar. So I'm gonna I'll start with maybe 2 scoops of that before I get the mixer started. And I'm just gonna go very, very slow because obviously you don't want it to poof up in your face and breathing powdered sugar. And you'll see it starts to incorporate it quite quickly. Looks almost like icing, like you're making icing for a gingerbread house or something. And then you're just gonna add it scoop by scoop until it's incorporated. I'm actually gonna just put a couple in there just to speed up the process here. It's not rocket science. Luckily, it's not like baking edible items. It's not quite as exact, so you don't have to worry about that. The paddle's doing its job right now and making a thicker dough. Now this looks like a thicker icing. And you're just going to keep going step by step till all of that powdered sugar is in your bowl. And at this point, I just tip it right over. There you go. Okay. And put it on very low until the rest mixes in. As the mixture starts to thicken up, you'll notice your batter starts making it a little harder for the paddle to work. That's good. It's going to be a very, very thick dough, and it'll seem drier than it needs to be at first. When you knead it a little bit, it'll be more pliable. Just speed it up a little, make sure it's getting all incorporated in there. Okay. So at this point, sorry for my dog barking in the background. At this point, you will have kind of a thick, like a super, super thick icing, almost like a sticky dough. And then at this point, we are going to put in our cornstarch. Okay, so 1 cup of cornstarch is in there now, and we are ready to mix all of those up again. This is the point where you might want that shield. I don't like it, so I'll deal with it. Just let it mix up a little bit, and you'll see it'll start to make a dough ball form. Just keep it on low because you know the cornstarch is very, very fine, and it will come up in your face. If you want to wear a mask while you do this, that might be a good idea as well. Okay, so you'll notice that it's starting to pick up a lot more on the paddle, and that's what we want here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this down. There we go. So it's kind of hanging on. It's a nice thick kind of substance. And if you feel it a little bit, it's kind of feels a lot like gum paste or silly putty almost. So that's the texture that you want. So you can, at this point, go ahead and peel it off of your paddle. Now I do want to mention that I am in Savannah, Georgia, which is very humid. And so this recipe works for the humidity level that I experience right now. If you are in a very dry climate, you might want to half the amount of cornstarch. That's what I would recommend for just in case if you find it's a little too dry. And if you do if you find that you have already used the amount and you know, and it's too dry, you can just go ahead and add a little bit more egg white and keep mixing, and it will eventually get soft to this texture again. Okay, so what you're looking for now is, here's your very pure white ball of ornament dough. There you go. That's what you're looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and take all of this out of the bowl. Just scrape it. You can use a spatula, use your fingers, whatever gets all that good stuff out. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and roll it up into 2 or 3 balls, because it does dry out pretty quickly, so just like spring dough actually. So you want to wrap it up well before you start using it. So it's just like a very squishy clay almost. Okay, and it will feel pretty dry to the touch and powdery, obviously, because of the ingredients that you just used. So I'm going to use maybe 3 equal balls, and then I'll wrap these up so that I can work with them one at a time when I'm making my ornaments. Okay, so now you'll need to prep your workspace to get ready to roll out your ornaments. So obviously you need your ornament dough. This you can use right away once you've made it, so don't feel like it needs to sit out for a while before or be refrigerated or anything like cookie dough. You can use this right away, or you can make it up to 24 hours after you've made it. You could roll them out. After that, it gets a little bit too dry. So make sure that you wrap it well and store it in an airtight container if you are waiting to the next day to roll them out. You'll need molds and cutters, obviously. So I'm using this, he's called Cheeky Santa, and he is Kitchen Vixen's very first mold. So I'm going to be using him because he's Christmassy. And then there's the cutter that goes with him. His name is Cheeky Santa. You can find him on Kitchen Vixen Molds, Etsy. I also have a rolling pin. I have some cornstarch mixed with your powdered sugar. Just mix it up a little bit, or just use one or the other. It doesn't really matter. This is just something that you need to dust the mold with so it doesn't get stuck. The ornament dough doesn't get stuck in your mold. I have a pastry brush so that you can dust your mold with it. And then I also have these 2 pieces that came in our kit. One is a hole punch tool. The other one are the hooks. So I'll show you both of them. But you can always just poke a hole with a straw or something as well, if you didn't buy the kit. And then also your baking pan. I like to line mine with parchment paper, but you can use a Silpat. Even a towel would work just fine, because they're just drying completely. There's nothing, you're not baking them after, so they're just going to completely dry. So any surface that you think will dry them out nicely is just fine. Okay, so that's those items here, and we are ready to get started. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and unwrap our dough. But I don't want to use all of it because it does dry out quickly, like I mentioned. So I'm just going to sort of cut this piece in half. These are large dough balls, but this is just for the sake of showing you. If you work more quickly, you can go ahead and use the whole ball at the same time. Now, you'll notice that the edge of it is a little bit dry, just like spring dough can be. So go ahead and knead it a little bit against your countertop, just to get that moisture kind of distributed evenly, just like we would with our cookies. Spring cookies, at least. Or gingerbread, anything that needs kneading. Okay, so I like to prep my space that I'm rolling out onto with parchment paper, because that way nothing will get stuck, and then I won't have to be distorting it when I'm trying to lift off the ornament. Okay, so I will drop a little bit of cornstarch on there and like a little bit around the ball of it itself, just to keep it not sticky. And then I'm going to go ahead and just roll out. I like to do about 1/2 inch, possibly 3/8, depending on how thick you want your ornaments to be. And also they'll take longer to dry if they're really thick. It also depends on how deep your mold is. So that's good. And then there it is, roll that to, I'd say about 3/8 right there. This is not a super deep mold, so 3/8 should work really well. Then I'll take a little bit of my cornstarch and just go ahead and dust the ornament inside. I like to stipple it and then kind of knock out the excess, and then he's ready to be pressed. So I'm going to go ahead and press down evenly, deeply into the dough. I need to get over top of this here and get a little step stool. And then once you feel like he's pressed quite well in there, you'll want to carefully lift him out and off. And then you have Santa, his beautiful image pressed into your dough. At this point, you can take your cutter and go ahead and cut him out. I like to give it a little wiggle, press, wiggle, and then lift. Because I like to roll my ornament dough pretty thick, it does tend to get stuck, the dough gets stuck in the cutter. And so when this happens, you worry about prying it out with a knife or something because you will distort the image. So again, what I like to do, I've shown you this on the cookie video if you've watched it, you put your hand out, palm up, the other one that's going to be holding the ornament with the cutter around it will be held up in the air, and then you want to hit the two heels of your hand against each other so that the dough falls into your hand, just like that. And then you can just set it down on your tray. But I'd like to show you, oh, my dog keeps barking. I'd like to show you what he looks like. There we go. Nice details. Happy, cheerful Santa. Jolly Santa. Okay. So at this point, you can either poke a hole in it, or you can put the hooks in. So I'm going to show you the hook right now first. If my cornstarch hands can get the bag open. Okay, so here we go. I have this hook. We have somewhere between a 1/2 inch to 1 inch long stem at the bottom of the hook, and you want to poke that into the top of your ornament in the very center, as straight down into it as you can. And I'll go a little closer to show you guys. Here, as straight down into it as you can, so that it doesn't poke out the other side. And I like to also embed a little bit of the bottom of the loop, just so it's sturdy in there. So he looks like this. You don't see the top of the loop. Oh, sorry, it's not in focus. There we go. You don't see the top of the stick, and you don't see the bottom of the loop. That's how I like to set him in there. And then if you squish this, obviously your ornament will squish. So what you want to do is just carefully set it down to dry. And the ornaments take 2 to 3 days to dry completely. For the first day, I'd like you to set them on the back so that the beautiful imprint is facing upwards, at least 24 hours. On day 2, I want you to flip them over. You'll notice the tops are very hard. Flip them over and let the backs dry. So it should take at least 2 days. So now let's make another one so that I can show you the hole punching method. Okay, so again, we dust our mold before every pressing. A little bit of stippling, knock out the excess dust, and then get ready to press. Push down evenly. You want to push probably at least halfway into the dough at this point for the thickness, but this dough is quite thick, and so you won't even feel like you get all the way down to the counter. And then give it a nice slow and steady lift. Perfect Santa. And then I'll cut him out just as I normally would. Press down, give the cutter a little wiggle. I like to give it a wiggle because I want to feel that it's separating from the parchment paper, and then I know that I have a nice clean cut without all those sort of frayed edges. Once again, he's stuck in the mold, so I just give it a drop and he drops into my hand. Okay, at this point, if you don't have the little hooks and you'd rather punch a hole, You can use this little doohickey if you have one. And I just punch a hole right in the top of his head. Sorry, Santa. Push down, give it a wiggle. So Santa now has a poor little hole in his head to hang, you know, the ornament on the tree. So when it dries, you can just slip a ribbon or something or a string through that hole and then hang him from there. Now, of course, you might want to do that with a star or something and not with Santa. Sorry, Santa. But anyway, we have the hole puncher here that has the dough stuck in the end of it. So what we do now is we take the little plunger that fits inside of it, push it, and then it will remove all the dough. So this works really well if you're making cookies that you also want to hang, like gingerbread cookies. Okay, so there's Santa with the poor little hole in his head. Poor Santa. But anyway, here he is. Two different styles of hanging, but they'll both be beautiful ornaments on your tree. After your cookies have dried for 24 hours, they're going to feel a little bit firm on the top. And I'll show you. Here's our Santa. He's nice and hard on top. And on the bottom back, he kind of has like a wet spot because I put him very flat on surface. Like I said, you could use a towel, like a cotton towel, and he might dry even a little bit more quickly. But this method works well for me, so I just put it on there. At this point, they're all hard after 24 hours, so I'm going to turn them all over. You can hear how firm they are. And then on the backs, you'll see it's a little bit, got a damp spot on the back, but I'm going to turn them all over anyway. And just let them dry for at least another 24 hours. That will ensure that they are dry enough where the hooks won't come out if you did the hook method. You know, you won't squish them or ruin the image. So there they go. And I'll just show you a couple of the images that I used. The ornaments. Little deer family. What else did I do? Oh, the snowflake is really pretty. Look how clear those images come out when they've dried. Okay, and then of course Santa. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and let these dry for another 24 hours, flipped over, of course, and then at that point, we'll be able to tie on some ribbon and put them on the tree. Let's finish off these ornaments, shall we? They've dried front and back, 24 hours each, and now they are ready for us to put some beautiful string and loops on and ribbon. So I'm a little extra, and of course, you know, I love copper. So I have this beautiful ribbon that I found, or this yarn that I found. I think it was Martha Stewart Living. I found it at TJ Maxx. And I'm just gonna go ahead and use that. It's kind of like a twine with 3 different colors of yarn kind of all mixed in together. It has like a coppery piece and then the white that brings out the white in the ornaments, and then a nice kind of gray color. So I'm gonna go ahead and loop that through, put that through the loop, and then I like to tie a knot to make it secure. Okay, just like so. And then I'm going to go ahead and tie another knot in the top. So this will be what we use to hang the ornament. Okay, so that's the loop that's sitting in right there. That's the loop method. And then I'm a little extra, so I'm going to put a nice sheer coppery ribbon. I'm going to tie a bow around it and make it look pretty for my tree, because I have kind of a copper and creamy white theme going on my tree this year. And yes, my tree is already up and it's the beginning of November. Don't hate. Okay, and so now I have this beautiful ornament to hang on my tree. Isn't that lovely? This one's called Christmas Bells. Okay, and then I'm just going to go ahead and finish off the rest of them like that. For the one with the hole, you just put the ribbon right through the loop and hang it. I like to tie a knot once it's tied at the top though, because otherwise he'll hang sideways. So just keep that in mind. Okay, and I'm ready to put them on the tree. Well, we've moved away from the kitchen for once and now are in the living room next to my Christmas tree. So I'm letting you have a sneak peek into my home and about to hang the Tragacanth ornaments. But I do want to mention to you that they are very fragile. At this point, when they've dried for 48 plus hours, they're almost like a plaster. So as soon as you drop them, they can crack and break in half. So please do protect them when you're storing them and be careful when you're hanging them as well. Here we go.